Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UAP, UFO news from everywhere and anywhere. Today I'll be discussing Michael Herrera. He's an ex-US Marine whistleblower who claimed human trafficking was going on with reverse engineered UFOs. Recently, he's been in the news because he claims men in black have been harassing him. He's also been in the news because his ex-Marine team leader claims his original story was all made up. In addition, I'll be discussing Linda Moulton Howe's 2024 whistleblower report. Should be a very interesting podcast. Stay tuned. So this is Michael Herrera. He's a former Marine that experienced an encounter with a UFO during a humanitarian aid mission in Indonesia in 2009. The encounter involved an octagonal-shaped UFO the size of a football field with a humming sound and was accompanied by a human trafficking operation and potentially reverse-engineered alien technology. Dr. Stephen Greer, the well-known figure in our UFO community, corroborated Herrera's story in his press club event this past year. He revealed that the human trafficking allegations were not about drugs, but trafficking physically gifted people to interact with alien technology and lure in beings for technology harvesting. Michael was later invited to a secret U.S. black site to learn more, but no evidence was provided. Some in the UFO community believe Michael's story, while others remain skeptical, requiring hard evidence before believing Michael was taken to a facility. But the credibility of his testimony, including the UFO encounter, cannot be definitively corroborated, and some squad members have not come forward due to fear for their safety. Recently, his team leader did come forward. I personally believe that it's important to thoroughly investigate the story and the potential implications if it's true. Michael Herrera now says he is facing threats from mysterious men in black. He believes sinister forces are determined to silence him and cover up the Pentagon UFO secrets. Michael Herrera was a 20-year-old rifleman sent on a Navy humanitarian mission during the 2009 Sumatra earthquake and tsunami that devastated the region. Around October the 8th, he and 5 Marines were dropped off at a clearing in the northeastern part of Padang City and hiked 900 feet up a ridge to take their positions for the incoming supply drop, Michael said. He said it was then he spotted a strange object in the jungle on the other side of the hill. The huge object, like an octagonal pyramid, was emitting a low hum. And he described a, quote, scaly, end quote, exterior, which looked man-made, but like no known type of aircraft. He said, quote, I could see something moving and rotating. It was changing colors between a very light matte gray to a very dark matte black. He said it stuck out like a sore thumb, end quote. He claims he saw the UFO being loaded with weapons by unmarked U.S. forces. He added that his unit had not been given radios to report what they were witnessing, so instead they slowly approached the craft for a better look. And in my opinion, not having a radio is highly unusual. Be that as it may, after an ambush by a mysterious paramilitary unit, his camera was seized by some mysterious, quote, men in black, end quote, he claims. He says he was sternly warned to keep quiet about the peculiar flying saucer craft he and his unit witnessed in the depths of the Sumatran jungle. So for years, Michael held his silence. He finally shared his astounding story at a briefing organized by Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project this past year. It was during this time that he started experiencing disturbing incidents that seemed aimed at silencing him. And this is a still picture of him on the Sean Ryan show. If you guys have a visual on this, Michael Herrera said, quote, "I've had numerous encounters with effing helicopters hovering over my house. They were hovering over my dad's house too," end quote. So Michael lives close to the Denver airport. So he's optimistic that the government contacts he has can help him trace the source of these mysterious flights. He's quoted as saying, "They get so low where they rattle the walls and scare the shit out of the animals that we've got," end quote. So Michael has recorded video evidence of these ominous flights and knows that other UFO whistleblowers and even government officials have faced similar intimidation tactics. Michael is hopeful that the government contacts can assist him in tracing the source of these menacing flights, as they would be passing through the airport's restricted airspace. Not everyone can do that. Okay, so now I'd like to go into a ex-team leader of his on that Marine squad that has been interviewed, saying that Michael Herrera's story was all made up. So I remember Michael Herrera saying at the press club event, Dr. Greer's press club event, team members to come out and give testimony as well and back up his story to, quote, not leave him hanging. Now, recently, his Marine team leader has come out saying he made up the whole story. So I guess you have to be careful what you wish for. Michael Herrera's Marine team leader, Nathan, details that the Indonesia UFO story is a complete lie and has photos disproving the story. He expresses that Herrera is damaging the credibility of real whistleblowers. He claims that the Sean Ryan show continues running the Herrera story, knowing it's a total fraud. Okay, and I have to agree with that. If he's lying, he is definitely muddying the waters and crediting or damaging the credibility of real whistleblowers. Nathan served as the team leader of Michael Herrera during the Indonesia humanitarian mission, in which Herrera claims he encountered a jungle UFO, black ops trafficking humans for nefarious purposes. And there was never any opportunity for Herrera to encounter such a thing. Furthermore, many details of Herrera's story, such as the, quote, no comms, end quote, and surrendering their weapons, is not how Marines operate. Nathan describes Herrera as a UA recruit, someone who previously ducked deployment and has no credibility. Nathan also claims that he reached out to the Sean Ryan show a day after they posted the Michael Herrera interview, and despite alerting them that this story is fraudulent, they continue hosting the interview because it is one of their most popular. So if this is true, this is another blow to Stephen Greer's credibility. There was something about the Atacama skeleton that was disproven by Gary Nolan. Now Michael Herrera is outed as a fraudulent whistleblower. Herrera was a major figure in Greer's Disclosure 2.0 hearings this past year. I'm going to go on to show some of Nathan's testimony here. This is a picture of Michael Herrera while he was serving, and here's a picture of Michael Herrera with Nathan, his team leader. Here's some footage of the earthquake in Indonesia.
Told numbers of homes, hotels, schools, and shops have crumbled to the ground.
Like a tradition. So he shows up and my recollection is he went UA. Basically, he just ran away. Didn't go on the first deployment, right? So when he came to me, I had to treat him like he was the brand new guy with all the other brand new guys. So that's how I first met him, because it was a weird situation. He was in a different company. And what I heard was he took off, didn't go on the deployment. So also, no one's going to look favorably on you if you ran away from a deployment. So you show up to me and it's like, great, now I have the problem child.
So you're his team leader. How do you become a team leader, and how big is the team?
Yeah, team leaders it's not big. So you would have like usually 3 guys, right? You got your fire team leader, 3 guys, and within an infantry squad, there's 3 fire teams. So then you got 1 squad leader. So I was good at my job. I didn't do stupid stuff. So we broke off and we went to handle this. From what I remember, the other Marines, they went to the Philippines and they did training it's called Crow Valley, where the Marines train all the time. So we just we got lucky. Sometimes you got lucky. We got to do a cool humanitarian mission. So we went over there for, I don't think it was too long, maybe like a week until we were back with everyone. Well, so we didn't even have a big role. We just, from what I remember, we got on the helicopters, we flew in, I think we brought them shovels and like food, and we landed, and his village is 200 yards away. I remember walking up, we just walked up this small hill and we brought him stuff. But yeah, we just handed him supplies, and then we came back down to the LZ. Okay,
you guys are coming in on choppers, so your guys' base camp or whatever is still the boat.
Oh yeah. So you went in once, because it's kind of like everyone gets to go in once. It's a cool little thing. Hand some stuff, come back, you get a ribbon, humanitarian. It's just, they need some people to carry stuff in. It was we're just extra people at that point. The Marine infantry isn't like crushing humanitarian aid. We're just, what do you need us to do? Oh, carry stuff? Okay, cool.
Michael, so you went with Michael out for this aid mission.
Yeah.
Okay, so the same mission that he says he encountered this UFO, you were with him, and that and according to your recollection, that did not happen.
It did not happen. It did not happen, because I took the photo of my 2 guys, my fire team, on the helicopter going in to the humanitarian aid. He's right there. He's in the photo. There's no
Michael
weapon.
Says that's not him.
Well, I know that would be a problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would be a problem. But no one's doubted I'm his team leader, right? They know I am.
Yeah.
I'm glad 14 years ago I made the little caption of my photo. It was like, the 2 devils I'm responsible for, meaning devil dogs. The 2 guys I'm in charge of. There's 2 of them. Herrera and another guy named Patrick. They're right there.
Okay, so Michael is claiming that that's not him in the photo, and that he got approached, I guess, separately at night or something to go on this separate mission. Have you ever heard of anything like that happening?
No, that didn't happen, because he's the lowest of the low at this point. He's the newest guy there. No one's going to him for any special hookup. You don't get hooked up. It's not it, and it just wouldn't happen. I'm his team leader. Like, it's just,
you know where he is at all times. What's going on?
I have to. No one goes to the lowest guy and is like, "Hey, come here. You want to do something?" No, you got squad leaders, platoon sergeants, platoon commanders, company gunny. It doesn't work like that. That's another thing people get stuck up on is weapons, right? He said we have weapons. So we went in, best of my recollection, we went in day 2, right? By this time, when we went in, we had already been told, you are not bringing rifles. You're not bringing weapons, because that looks bad. Everyone's taking photos. And why does a guy have an M16 taking a knee in front of a bunch of locals that need shovels? It just doesn't look good. So what I remember was, I think it was, grapevine, rumor stuff. Some Air Force colonel in charge of stuff said, get back on, don't bring that crap back. And it kind of fits. I've seen photos of the 9th where they have weapons or combat load. And I recognize one of the guys. He was a different platoon. It makes sense. They went in the first day. Day 2 comes around. My platoon goes in. By this time, there's no rifles. And when you tell Marines going to Indonesia, because they gave us like information, way up north, there's a lot of like, terrorism and this. So, young Marines are like, gotta have my guns, right? Gotta bring the rifles. Some may or may not have brought pistols in their backpacks just to protect themselves. I'm just going to protect myself, put it in the backpack, do not bring this out. Yeah. And that's what happened. So there's no rifles.
No rifles.
Another thing that most people find ridiculous as well is we didn't have radios. That's what I heard him say. We did not have radios. You're never going anywhere without a radio. You think they're dropping Marines to walk into a jungle with no radios? I've been in plenty of jungles. You get lost in like 30 feet. You're not coming back. It's a non-starter.
Now here's Michael Herrera on the Sean Ryan podcast show saying just the opposite, claiming that they did not have radios on that mission.
Now, the only thing that's unsettling with this is the fact that they never gave us any comms. You know as well as I do how risky that is.
You didn't have any comms?
We didn't have any comms. Would have had comms, you're damn right would have called it in. Report something suspicious. Maybe get some eyes on a helo, get a hold of their call signs and try to do them fly around, and they never did. And obviously we didn't have comms to do it, but they were more occupied with what was going on behind us.
What did they went 300 meters away to a hilltop for security?
Correct.
Okay, you can't see 30 feet in the jungle. Why are you going to go 300 yards away to protect an LZ? You would stay there, and you're for sure not going to go out there without radios. And I didn't know he said it was at night. That's even, if he did, that's even more wild. Like, how are you getting out there? Your GPS they gave you for this particular mission? Try and navigate at night in the jungle?
Okay, so here's Michael Herrera claiming just the opposite.
I know how big this thing was because...
Did you see it as you crested the hill?
Yes, I did, and that's where I took videos and pictures of this thing.
He's talking
that's how I was able
about
to see it because,
UAP.
Taking pictures of the chaos going behind and everything. You see in the rubble, burning buildings, flooding and all that kind of stuff. And then you turn around and I'm like...
So you crest this hill.
Yep.
You look down into the valley.
Yep.
And there's a clearing.
There's a clearing.
With a UAP.
Yes.
Just sitting there.
Sitting there, rotating clockwise, yep. And that's in transition this color spectrum I was telling you too.
Emailed the Sean Ryan show. I found an email address. I sent a bunch of photos in. I put 3-4 paragraphs because I was kind of upset. I was like, how does this guy get on here? This huge platform. Did you do zero research? Like nothing. You're just like, screw it. Come on, say it. Because I was like, I like this guy. I like the show. But you let him on. So I never got a response. And then I got a wife. I got kids. I'm not going to put a ton of time into it because I was there and I know. For me, it's easy. This is an easy story because I was there. But I get why everyone else is like going to these extremes because, you got him saying one thing, you got me saying one thing. But common sense and photos and all accounts back me up. No aliens.
Okay, so I got this post from r/UFOs, and that was the Patrick podcast. He did an excellent job of interviewing Nathan, last name not given, but he was the ex-Marine team leader for Michael Herrera, who claimed that he witnessed human trafficking by a paramilitary group in a reverse engineered UAP. And he said this with the backing of Stephen Greer in this past year's press club event. And I appreciate Nathan and I appreciate Patrick on his podcast coming out with this information. You have to listen to all points of view. I know that Michael Herrera has his own security business that's very successful now. I'm not sure why he would be making up this story because he's not making any money from it. He's already a successful businessman with his security company. But I thought I'd put that out there because if there are people out there muddying the waters and putting out hoaxes about UAP contacts, they're making it more difficult to get at the truth and also damaging the credibility of real whistleblowers. I'd like to move on now with a UFO investigative reporter's annual report, Linda Moulton Howe's 2024 whistleblower report. Okay, so Linda Moulton Howe, for those of you who do not know who she is an American investigative journalist and regional Emmy Award-winning documentary filmmaker. She's best known for her work as a ufologist and advocate of a variety of conspiracy theories. She's best known for her investigation of cattle mutilations and her conclusion that they are performed by extraterrestrials. She's also been known for her speculations that the US government is working with aliens. In 1980, she produced A Strange Harvest, which is a documentary that suggested unusual wounds found on cattle are the work of extraterrestrial beings, or NHI, who harvest body parts required for their survival or research, and that the US government is complicit. Howe became known as a staunch advocate for these ideas and began to focus on UFO conspiracy theories, and she began to speculate about alleged connections between cattle mutilations, UFOs, and supposed government conspiracies. She's been known to say, quote, "I am convinced that one or more alien intelligences are affecting this planet," end quote. MUFON, or the Mutual UFO Network, called her, quote, "the most preeminent UFO investigator in the world," end quote. And she was also named as one of the, quote, "gurus of American ufology." A lot of Howe's work includes speculations about what she terms as unexplained phenomenon, such as cattle mutilations, as I mentioned. She also has done work on crop circles, UFO sightings, and alien abductions. So in addition to alien harvests, she's also written a book called Glimpses of Other Realities. Linda Moulton Howe still remains active today, and she's the host of a weekly broadcast on YouTube that dates back to 2017. So now I'd like to go into Linda Moulton Howe's 2024 annual whistleblower report, where she has a whistleblower tell her about missions that have gone unreported and a space program that very few people know about. Here's Linda Moulton Howe. She spoke at the Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo recently. So at the expo, Linda Moulton Howe read through a transcript of her interview with her whistleblower, and she discussed a base on Mars that the whistleblower told her about. Linda Moulton Howe asked her whistleblower which non-humans have a base on Mars. And the whistleblower is quoted as saying, "This is a very complicated question. We are currently on Mars and have been for some time now." Okay, that's quite unusual. He went on to say, "We have expanded our first Earth human base to be more long-term, operationally speaking. It is now staffed with about 1,500 individuals, both military and hand-picked, academic and scientific personnel. The current length of a Mars assignment is mainly 6 years, whereas it was only a 2-year deployment in previous years. The American Mars base is overseen by JSOC, or the Ultra Elite Joint Special Operations Command, and conducts highly classified and complex operations from its base in Fort Liberty, North Carolina, near the Army's Fort Bragg. JSOC and a classified U.S. Navy group manage the operations of the Martian base." The whistleblower goes on to say JSOC and the Navy operatives have discovered underground on Mars a race of indigenous human-like people. Okay, even more unusual. These human-like indigenous people are very much like the early Phoenician culture on Earth. They are the remains of a civilization that once existed on Mars. They are very few in number and not highly advanced. Linda Moulton Howe then questions her whistleblower and asks, are the current Martians what the Greeks knew as Phoenicians or Canaanites, named after the grandson of Noah? Whistleblower's response is, the Phoenician-like humanoids on Mars are supposed to be a non-threatening species that invented numbers and letters when they sailed the oceans of Earth and actually reached the Americas before Christopher Columbus. I apologize for not getting deeper into the Mars program. It is an extremely high classification attached with it. And in Linda's transcript, she questions her whistleblower and says, were Earth's Mesopotamian deserts actually first populated by humanoids from Mars? And the whistleblower's answer is, they did come to Earth back in history during the time of the pharaohs ruling Egypt. I'm not supposed to name the particular pharaoh. The biggest difference is the Mars cranium is a little longer in depth at the rear of the spinal cord compared to Earth humans. Okay, so here, I guess the whistleblower is saying that the original pharaohs of Egypt came from Mars. So now Linda's next question is, if JSOC has been working in a Mars base, why can't the whole truth be told about the first Mars population eons ago that came to Earth and had a major impact on human history? The whistleblower's answer is, Mars exploration is the biggest joke, to be honest, for the simple reason that we are already there exploring. Okay, that's a big claim. Did you know that the Mars rovers that are there now have restrictions of limited travel? How about that? The landing sites were handpicked by our Department of Defense. Wow. So Linda Moulton Howe questions the whistleblower about why we happen to be on Mars. Why do we have a base there? And she claims that we're there to protect against an insectoid alien species called the walking stick tantalloids that want to come here to Earth and take over. So this tantalloid walking stick alien race that wants to take over the Earth is supposed to look like Jerusalem crickets. And I found this online. The Jerusalem cricket, or the potato bug as it's commonly known, is a fascinating insect. It's actually not a bug, it's not a cricket, and it's not from Jerusalem. It's native to the southwest US and Mexico, and it is not venomous, but it can deliver a strong bite and emit a bad smell. This is one being a good boy. Yeah, so it almost looks like it has fingers. It has quite a big head. It has mandibles that are not protruding at this point. I guess it can bite if it's provoked, but it's not being provoked here. And you can slightly see the mandibles there on the side. It's quite large. And this is what Linda Moulton Howe says that the alien race looks like that wants to take over Earth, and why we have a base on Mars. Okay, so here's a graphic of our solar system in proximity to where the hostile insect race live. And they live just outside of our solar system in Epsilon Aricari. Those are the tantalloid walking stick aliens. And the tall whites, made famous by Charles James Hall, live on B2 Eridani, right there. Reptilians live here on Regil. Tall grays live way out here on Epsilon Indi. The Nordics are supposed to be from Regil, Procyon A and B. So you can see that the tantalloids planet, or Epsilon Ericari, is very close to our solar system, which is why we supposedly have a base on Mars to protect against them. So Linda Moulton Howe's whistleblower claims that he's been working alongside NHIs for a while. And Linda's next question is, have you been able to sit and talk with an off-world group, such as the Tall Whites? And the whistleblower's answer is, I'd like the Tall Whites' philosophy on life and their spiritual nature more than anything. I especially like their abilities to talk openly about the source and the soul. This next part is interesting. The whistleblower talks about a yellow book, and this comes after Linda questions him about the Olmecs in South America and whether they were actually ETs. And the whistleblower's answer is, yes, we have discovered the true history of Earth and the multitude of human-like species that lived and developed on Earth in prehistory and other Earth-like planets out to a distance of about 754 light years from our own solar system. Wow. The Yellow Book from the Greys is considered one of the highest security classifications in existence. The whistleblower goes on to tell Linda that the Yellow Book was a gift of sorts given to us in an exchange program that would turn most stomachs if I got into the particulars of the exchange, such as animal mutilations and human abductions for sperm, eggs, and other chemistries. Let's just say it was tissue that was needed to facilitate DNA regeneration for a particular race that was damaged due to a coronal mass ejection from their star. Sounds like the Greys. So Linda Moulton Howe's whistleblower speaks about a yellow book that was given to us by the Greys that records 250 million years of Earth history. He also talks about faster than light travel or waveguides, that we have craft that have a living skin and that we travel from point to point, sort of like teleportation. The whistleblower talks about resonant frequency or point-to-point travel where the craft glows and then disappears and relocates within a quantum field. Whistleblower is saying that they're traveling within a quantum field, and that quantum field is a consciousness, so to speak. And the whistleblower claims that we can currently jump 6 light years, and the furthest that we've been is 50 light years in just a few seconds. It's called quantum tunneling. And the Linda Moulton Howe's whistleblower says that he's been involved in this particular program at JSOC for decades, and that they were given help by the Tall Whites, made famous by Charles James Hall from Walking with the Tall Whites. These Tall Whites have the quantum tunneling effect, and this occurs at a nanoscale levels to create instant physical stellar communication at great distances, also instant travel at great distances. Linda's whistleblower also says that another project that he was involved in or read into is called ATOP, A-T-O-P, or simply ATOP, and that stands for Advanced Tactical Observational Platform. And these are the larger black triangles that people have been seeing for several decades now. The TR-3B, for example, the Black Manta, the TR-3M, the Manta Ray, and they have a living skin made out of bismuth, magnesium, zinc. And the big secret of how the field that these craft that JSOC is traveling the galaxies with is generated by the use of specific waveguides. It's designed to work at extreme high frequencies, made of doping material using bismuth, magnesium, zinc. And this bismuth, magnesium, zinc is the same that was investigated in the Roswell UFO crash. So the TR-3B and the TR-3M, the ATOP triangle or the black triangle craft that people have been seeing. So these triangular black craft have field shields, allowing them to sit motionless in the sky for as long as needed at any altitude. And the TR-3B, TR-3M all use the same flight technology, according to the whistleblower. And this brings us all back, or Linda Moulton Howe back to what she's known for, cattle mutilations. And she says that the craft have a tractor beam. And she says that she finally knows these craft have a tractor beam. And that's how the cows were brought on board and supposedly mutilated on board. And then the carcasses left in the farmer's field. And this occurred back in the 70s and 80s, I believe. And Linda Moulton Howe became famous for covering the cow mutilations. So I thought at this point I'd show a little bit of a clip from Linda Moulton Howe's speech where she talks about tall whites and their technology. She also talks about the tantalloids, the insectoid race that is threatening the earth. And she also questions why this is not being shared with the public.
I'm not here as a sociologist or a psychologist. I'm here as an investigative producer and reporter. After all these years, starting in September 79, 45 years ago, trying to get to the bottom of what was happening with those animals, and not taking very long for me to have people start saying that I can't talk to you. And then, why can't you? Because there's a policy. We cannot talk about animal mutilations. This particular aerospace source, and I try to protect them, and I feel for my work, I know half a dozen individuals, like Grush. Grush is real. Grush is a true whistleblower. We're getting so many mixed signals from this administration. Well, I wouldn't say administration, I would say the Pentagon. And then JSOC, the joint group in North Carolina, they are, if anybody has their hand on the gear shift, it's JSOC. How many Americans do you think even know what JSOC stands for? The official power centers, meaning they're basically untouchable. It is now so vast and so large that my question of what country are we in now with what government? What is driving the money to Area 51, S4, Los Alamos, all of the various sensitive underground, gigantic underground installations, trillions of dollars, taxpayers' money, and there's no connection, there's no effort to have the American public understand any of it. It's the opposite. That there are not even questions from the New York Times about what is happening at these gigantic labs. I'm just trying to understand, what are we in now? UFOs and ETs are the big box for most all of my questions. I'm not kidding. And we are working with advanced species. We do have people on Mars, underground. This is not bullshit. This is real. And in Ganymede, I know for a fact from somebody who has been there on a particular mission, Ganymede is the largest moon in our solar system, orbits Jupiter. There is a base that is huge inside of Ganymede, owned, operated, and controlled by the Tall Whites. These are pieces of a story. Those are facts. Why should they continue to be hidden? I guess that's it. I will close out on a question. Why? Why is it all still being hidden? But there must be some really strong demonstration by the Tall Whites in which they have said, we will help you X. You don't come where we are on the earth, but we will help you. What is their vested interest? What are the vested interests of this schizophrenic point in time? The most substantive dialogue with why are things in the mess that they are is that the government is terrified of what the insects on Epsilon Eridani can do, and that the tall whites and the grays have confirmed that they have been trying to keep these standing up Jerusalem cricket-looking things on Epsilon Eridani under control, that the tall whites and some of the Nordics are promising that they will be able to keep the marauding insects from taking Earth, that they know that what they call them WS, meaning like the walking stick. But I have also seen illustrations that they don't really look like walking sticks to me. They look like Jerusalem crickets. And that they are described as being that if they want a planet, and that this is coming from the tall whites, allegedly, that these insects, if they make a decision about a planet, they come en masse and they take everything. And that was what was presented to Ronald Reagan, March 6th to 8th, 1981, in his first briefing with the CIA, NSA, DIA, a lot were there. I've done many reports about this Ronald Reagan briefing. Tronoloid is the name of these insects, but I don't know why. And they're only part of the picture. These are not the only ETs. If paralleling right now and for the last 3 years has been all this about we're coming up against some sort of existential, possibly terrible event on this planet that has been characterized by some as a solar event that some solar physicists have been predicting based on rotational and observational motions of the sun. And the most dramatic that I saw said these words, that between that year and 2030, that prominences from the sun could travel the 93 million miles and scorch surfaces of the earth. And I remember reading that and being astounded. If anything like that is coming, floods, earthquakes, the San Andreas Fault really splits, and Los Angeles and everything in Los Angeles goes into the ocean. Why wouldn't it be more logical to tell the whole world that there are extraterrestrials that are prepared to help us, that could come in and take a lot of people, not to kill us, not to put us someplace, but because we may be in a very dangerous geophysical cycle on our own planet, in our own system. And that has puzzled me. I have asked that question to some people. Why wouldn't this be the optimum time to tell everybody about beings that can help us?
Exactly, which is why I'm doing this podcast, to get at the truth. She's talking about a catastrophic solar event. And as we speak in this year, 2024, approximately springtime, we've been having some very large solar flares, unprecedented. So there could be some substance to that. I thought I'd also show a clip again of what those tantalloids or insectoid walking stick aliens that are threatening the Earth look like. So these are the walking stick aliens, or what they look like. They're from Epsilon Eridani, and they're threatening to take over the Earth. They're the marauding insects. They look like Jerusalem crickets, and supposedly they want to take over the Earth, and which is the reason the whistleblower, or Linda Moulton Howe'S whistleblower, says that we have a base on Mars to protect against them. And supposedly the Nordics and the tall whites are helping protect us from these aliens from Epsilon Eridani. These are also the NHI that Ronald Reagan was told about. Hope you guys enjoyed all that. I know that Linda Moulton Howe clips were a little disjointed. I still hope that you got something out of it. My name is Al Barrows. This has been UFO Disclosure. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let's remember all the kids in war-torn countries like Gaza and the Ukraine. Let's manifest a positive shield of protection over them. Thank you. Thank you all for listening to my podcast. Here's some pictures of Mars taken by the rover, by the U.S. rover.